In Europe, during the Middle Ages, the life expectancy of a human was 30 to 33 years. The 300% population growth of the 19th century is the best proof of the fact that industry and technology gave humans a great chance to survive and live longer. If it was true that heavy concentration of technology is destructive to human life, one would find life expectancy to decline in advanced countries. But it has been rising instead. The life expectancy in US throughout the years is as follows: 1900, 47 years; 1920, 53 years; 1940, 60 years; 2020, 78 years. So if you are over 30 years of age today, give a silent thank you to the nearest smokestack and factory you can find. Many parts of our lives and comfort depend on technology. Just think how many life-saving, time-saving, and labor-saving devices are there created by it, and how miserable you would be if they were taken away. But what you forget is that it is being taken away from you, and the worst part is that it's being taken away in the name of love for humanity. Let's quickly paint a picture of an average family living in an environmentally conscious state without technology and get to the core arguments of this video right after. Imagine you are a young man living in suburbs of a big city. You boil the water the old-fashioned way to make yourself some coffee. You throw a few more pieces of wood into the furnace so your wife and kids aren't cold when they get up. You take the public transport to work because personal cars produce too much pollution and are only available to the government officials and the very rich. You have to walk another 20 minutes from your bus stop to get to your office. You are unable to grab breakfast on your way because most restaurants have been closed. They produce large amounts of garbage and pollution. Besides, you need to save money. Your wife wakes up and feeds the kids, but there are no baby formulas or cereals available. She needs to wash the dippers by hand, just like other laundry and dishes, because washing and dishwashing machines have been discontinued. Their production hurts the environment, and so does the amount of electricity they consume. There is no vacuum, no refrigerator, no cosmetics, and she had to sacrifice all of those things so the polar bears wouldn't vanish from Earth. There are no pacemakers, no vaccines, no artificial organs or body parts available because of the complex production and environmental harm. All of this is to save the diverse species of birds in Australia. How would you like to give up your current life and comfort in exchange for the life described above? Notice that the propaganda of the environmentalists never considers the men's needs and requirements for survival, as if men are unnatural phenomenon. Even the smallest tribe of humans needs to produce pollution to survive. In their case, it's fire. Think about what human existence was for thousands of years prior to Industrial Revolution. You don't necessarily need to look at history, just look at the undeveloped parts of the world, which is more than half of the Earth's population even today. The primary struggle of the people in the undeveloped countries are the bare necessities for life. Of course, factories don't necessarily need to be polluting, but that's not the first issue when the survival of humans and technology is at stake. The local city smog and dirty water is a real problem and are not good for men, but this is not a political problem, but a technological one, and it can only be solved by technology. Smog might be bad for human life, but life without technology is much worse. Ask a person from Central African Republic whose life expectancy is around 54 years if he would prefer city smog or his current life. And it's not merely the length of life, but also the quality. If you would face all the diseases, hard labor, fear, and misery that he has to face, you would appreciate technology more. Let us examine the arguments of ecologists and environmentalists. They argue that man has come to poison his natural environment with chemicals, garbage, fumes, noise, sewage, heat, ugliness, and urban overcrowding. The effects are not just local, but global. They threaten the survival of all living species. They argue that there are many animals and plants that went extinct because of humans, but so did dinosaurs, except without human intervention, yet life on Earth continued. Contrary to their belief, nature does not maintain the kind of equilibrium that guarantees the survival of any particular species, least of all the most fragile animal, men. Some say global disaster may result if environmental pollution remains unchecked. Concentration of CO2 is accumulating in the air because the trees and plants that feed on CO2 are being chopped down. This will raise the global temperature, the ice on the Arctic will melt, the ocean levels will rise, and cause a worldwide flood. You can do your own research to learn why climate change is natural and is not caused by humans, but you will have to scroll below the first two websites populated for you by almighty Google. I will only mention that it was first called global cooling, then global warming, then global cooling, then global warming, and finally climate change to be even more vague. Another complaint is noise. People can't seek silence. The planes, the traffic, the air conditioners. Consider if people had to travel only by feet and horses, wash clothes only by hand, give up refrigerators, and live without air conditioning. The price of all those things is noise. If you are very concerned, you should know that there is no unwanted noise in the cemetery. Make no mistake, it is technology and progress that environmentalists are trying to destroy. What worries them is that people may try to fix everything using technology. They claim that technological solutions would just create new problems. They claim that mankind's hope lies in fewer births and minimalist living. But luckily, people do not want to give up luxury lifestyle, iPhones, and even plastic straws. It is no accident that the strongest environmentalists are leftists, because the immediate motive is, of course, destruction of capitalism in today's mixed economy and establishment of global dictatorship by suppressing the freedoms of choice, free markets, and individualism. This motive doesn't have to be stated openly because the evidence clearly leads us to that end. If poverty was the real concern of the collectivists and leftists, they would have become capitalists long ago. They would have discovered that it is the only system that can produce abundance. But they choose to ignore the evidence, and when faced with the choice, they turn to rewriting their agenda. Instead of supporting the promised abundance that collectivism was supposed to give them, they are now blaming the capitalism for creating abundance. Instead of supporting the promised comfort and security that collectivism was supposed to give them, they are now blaming capitalism and people who live in comfort and security. They changed from the narrative of inducing guilt on others for exploiting the poor. Now they induce guilt on others for exploiting the nature. Instead of threatening you with a mass rebellion, they threaten you with a cataclysm and disaster that cannot be proved. One element has remained unchanged, element without which they have no chance: altruism, the appeal for self-sacrifice, the denial of man's right to exist. I have a separate video on why altruism is bad. Link in the description below. The government, which is responsible for garbage and sewers, has been responsible for a large portion of the problem. Yet our nature lovers want to regulate and close businesses and give more power to the government. Collectivists found an excuse under the name of ecology and climate change to create more controls, more corruption, and more harassment of industry by irresponsible pressure groups. The businessmen are the last ones to protest. They would rather make few more deals with bureaucrats than stand up for their rights. Politicians see it as an excuse to collect more money under the name of pollution, which is non-controversial and can mean anything to anyone. The deeper significance of the environmentalist is that it exposes the collectivist thinking, the hatred for human achievement, reason for man and for life. United States, country born from industrial revolution, achieved magnificence which only free men can achieve, and showed that reason is the base of man's survival. The mystics have always been fighting the men of reason using all means available. In the Middle Ages, their weapon was fear of God. In the 19th century, they would still use that weapon to oppose the use of anesthesia on the grounds that God intended men to suffer. When this weapon wore out, they tried using the power of the collective, which has been collapsing in their hands ever since. Fortunately, most people don't take the issue of climate change seriously. It is an artificial issue blown up by the left that can find no other grounds for attacking capitalism. The big tragedy is that the majority that opposes these artificial issues remains silent, and we all know that the uncontested absurdities of today are the accepted slogans of tomorrow. I hope you are having a nice day. Feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos, and remember to choose your mentors carefully. You don't want to be stuck with an angry teenage girl from Sweden over a seasoned writer and philosopher who grasped objective reality.